Hey Gearheads, and welcome to Garage Talk, a discussion about all things automotive. I'm Cory.
And I'm Matt. And each week this podcast will serve as a catalyst for discussion on all sorts of topics that grind our gears, rev our engines, or just need a bit more conversation.
And on this episode, we've got a special discussion going on. We meandered a bit. This was a nice, refreshing, off-the-cuff kind of episode for us to start off the new year, wasn't it, Matt?
It was very meandering, very moseying through the discussion for a good 45 minutes of interesting discussion. So
basically, it is what comes of you being smart enough to hit the record button when you're not talking. That's what this episode is, and we can't wait to share it with all of you, our listeners. This was a good one. Typical conversation between you and I, so it's kind of a peek behind the scenes, so to speak.
It is. It was a very organic conversation that happened. It just kind of happened. We were in between recording episodes, and conversation struck, and here we went.
About 30 minutes in, we're like, this should be an episode. And then I look over and I see that glowing red button, and I'm like, let's just keep rolling. So turned out to be a very good one. We hope that you enjoy it. We hope that y'all have a blast with this one. But first things first, before we dive into the episode, Merry Christmas. Get that behind us. Happy 2021, everybody.
Woo-hoo.
My goodness. I don't think anyone can be more excited than just the general population for the calendar to turn over 2021. So big things are scheduled, are planned, are in the books, ready to happen for Garage Talk. We are very excited about what this year can bring for us, what we are planning for this year, and just can't wait to share all of those things with you, our listeners, our audience, our fans. Also, since you and I last sat down in a room together, we hit a small milestone.
A small one. Yeah, no, it was
Cory,
massive.
A 1,017 follower milestone.
Oh my goodness.
1,017 likes, follows, whatever you want to call it, on Facebook. So thank you to all of our fans, all of our listeners, for going and checking us out on Facebook. That's facebook.com/GT Garage Talk. For those of you who are listening who haven't done that yet, like, come on, support us. Follow us on all platforms, and we will try and keep you up to date on what we're doing and what the automotive world is doing out there. But enough, like, history, future aside. What about this episode? Do we talk school buses? I think we talk school buses.
We did.
Do we talk diesel engines? I think we talk diesel engines. What else? There's so much. There's griping. There's complaining. There's airing of grievances. It's a good one.
It is. It was a lot of fun.
I think we should just cut all the chatter and dive right into this one, because it's a good episode. Great way to kick off the new year. Thank you to all of our fans and supporters, and just cannot wait to share more and more awesome content with each and every one of you. So listen up and enjoy.
Like, we could really get specific with some episodes.
Mm-hmm.
New and upcoming. Sue would be a great one for some new and upcoming stuff. Bill, anything?
Probably did not read her article. I read her review of the Mach-E. She had it for 3 days, so she's already turned it back in. But she called it an exotic because of the attention it got.
Yeah.
And the performance for what it was, kind of thing.
Right.
So she thoroughly enjoyed it and can't wait to drive another.
Awesome.
She wouldn't buy it, though. EVs don't work in her area and climate. And
yeah. I after watching that one you sent me, this Throttle House.
Mm-hmm.
After watching theirs this morning, I'm sold.
You want one?
I want one. It's going to be a long time before I have $65,000 to spend on a brand new car.
You need to tell Deb
And-
because she said a crew cab Mustang. That's
Well,
as crew cab Mustang as it gets.
pretty much. I drive 2 miles one way to work.
Mm.
I mean, I could literally go like 3 weeks on a charge. And
And see, the problem right now is like another reason why we're doing this is so that we can get free vehicles.
well, yeah.
Because I cannot justify. I've got a 3 mile commute.
Yeah.
How much of my income? What percentage of my income is going towards essentially 12 miles a day or an hour of my day? Am I really going to dedicate that much of my income to that little?
Right.
Which, yes, the weekends, yes, this and that and the other, but that's where I've been. And you know me, I've got a taste for new and expensive. So it is very hard for me to rationalize and then to convince Holly to be on the same page. Because, again, I have a taste for new and expensive.
Sure.
And so, again, that's where this and where we are taking it feeds into our addictions
Right.
perfectly.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. And I was on Facebook Marketplace today, just goofing around, looking at Facebook Marketplace because it's what I do when I'm
Right.
bored. I found a $5,000. I actually found multiple $5,000 Subaru Bajas, a couple of which had a manual transmission.
I didn't even know they made those in America.
They did, and a couple of them with manual transmissions with a turbocharger. And I want to trade my car for a Subaru Baja
Oh, dear.
because it's a truck, and I
Ish.
can still put my kids in the back of it.
Right. It has a bed. I'm
It
going
ha-
to call it
well,
a truck.
Okay, fair enough. If we're going that way, the Gladiator has a bed. It's not a truck.
No, it's a truck. It is a truck dedicated frame. The whole reason it can tow and the Wrangler can't is because they designed the frame to withstand truck duty. It is a legit, from
Okay.
the ground
Well,
up,
from-
a truck.
From an appearance standpoint, it's still a Wrangler with a pickup bed.
Well, that's styling, but it is a fully capable, and look at the numbers and the stat sheet and what it can tow and payload. It is a truck through and through.
Okay. All right.
So,
What about the Ridgeline?
I will have
I don't even think we have to argue about that one.
no.
Okay.
That's common ground.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. What about the Maverick? The supposed downsize, possibly escape-based pickup.
I would lump it the same way that I would an El Camino or a Ranchero or a Baja, in that
Okay.
it has a bed. It's not a truck.
Okay. Would you divorce me as being your friend if I got one?
No. No. Because that's such a weird way to ask the question.
Would you disown me as your friend and co-host of Garage Talk if I got one?
No, because we would do fun and stupid things with it.
Okay.
Into it.
All right.
Now, granted, this is purely a mythical beast at this point.
Right.
We only know rumors, and we only know that because you and I are very in tune to what's going on.
Right.
For those unaware, it is, like you said, the supposed car-based, essentially, crossover-based,
Yeah.
quote-unquote truck coming out to be sub-Ranger in the Ford lineup.
And it would make sense because the Bronco, 2-door, 4-door Bronco, is so big. I mean, have you seen it sitting next to an F-150?
I have not seen it sitting next to a F-150, but I have watched Doug DeMuro review one, and
Yeah.
it eclipses him at 6+ feet tall.
This, the biggest complaint that I've heard about the Bronco, the real Bronco, and the Baby, but that was because people weren't aware that the Baby was not intended to be the Bronco,
Right.
but that they wanted a full-size Bronco. Well, I promise you, it is full size. It is all there.
I'd say it's about a 3/4.
For it to be able to fit 35s from the factory,
yeah.
and they don't look massive. 35s? That is a huge tire.
Right.
The first Raptor came with 33s.
Right.
So,
Well, the Chevy Trail Boss and the Ram Rebel are both 33s.
Yeah.
So
So it is a big truck.
right.
35s don't look massive on that truck. It's a big truck. So
It is
with
still
that
Ranger
said,
based.
it
It
is still
a
Ranger based.
mid-sized truck platform, but as we've alluded to in the past, mid-sized trucks now are what full-size trucks were in the 90s.
Right. Yeah.
It's just crazy.
They're big.
Vehicles are huge.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that being said, to have a truck that would be smaller than the Ranger, but using the Ranger platform doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So it would make sense, though, and I've seen a couple of renderings where they've taken the Bronco Sport and basically put a bed on it. It looks incredible. I love it.
The boxy look just
Oh, yeah, the boxy off-road masculine kind of feel that the Bronco
Right.
Sport gives fits beautifully with the pickup bed styling.
that does not mesh with the renderings and rumors and supposed design of what this Maverick it will look like. The Maverick's basically going to look like a smaller Ranger, which looks like a smaller F-150
Right. Yeah.
ish.
Ish.
Maybe a couple generations ago, more
Yeah.
so than current. But
Yeah. Well, but again, that's because everything in the midsize segment is so bubbly because they're trying to get the air to move around it
Right.
for efficiency, because you've got full-size trucks that are getting 30 miles to the gallon.
right,
So my
especially
dad,
the GM twins with
Yep.
that 3-liter
3-liter inline
Straight
6.
Yep.
Uh,
diesel.
Diesel, yeah. My
I've seen nothing but good things about that engine.
Oh, yeah, yeah. My dad is on me all the time. I messaged him one day, probably a year ago, and has still stuck out in my mind. I said, all right, if you were to go out, money not an option, and buy a mid-sized truck right now, what would it be? And he said, it wouldn't be a mid-sized truck. Because for what you pay for a mid-sized
Yeah.
truck, for what you get for a mid-sized truck, why not pay an extra $5,000 on a $40,000 truck anyway and get a full-size and get 6 seats instead of 4.5?
Yep.
You get a
and
full-size
more
bed.
comfortable
You
seats.
get it's much more comfortable. It's much more capable. It's much more, and the mileage difference from one to the other. Good grief, a Tacoma, you can't get 20 miles to the gallon out of a 4-wheel drive Tacoma.
Well, that platform is so old to begin with, but still, I'd totally get the point that you're making. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is ridiculous, and yes, the price differentiation between the two of them, that is a completely valid point, and even some of the options. So, again, I've got a taste for the expensive and the nice, and I have in my head, whether or not this actually comes to fruition or not, in my head, I have put a mental checklist of things that I want in my next vehicle,
Right.
my next daily driver,
Right.
and a sunroof is one of them.
Yeah.
I've had 3 in past vehicles. My wife has a panoramic in the Jeep. I want a sunroof again. When I had them in my personal vehicles, it was almost always open. It's 30 some odd degrees outside. It would still be open
Oh,
because
yeah.
I also had heated seats at the time.
Yeah.
Comes in handy. But the roof was always open, and my current vehicle does not have a sunroof, and I miss it. You cannot, at least from the General Motors twins, you can't get a sunroof in a midsize vehicle.
Interesting.
Now, I could go Jeep Gladiator and just take the
Take the top off.
completely off. Which,
Or the front 2 sections at
right,
least.
right, the Freedom panels. And I have driven a topless Gladiator. Well, it had the Sunraider soft top flip back.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
it was not flipped back when I got in it, and I was like, by golly, I am in a convertible truck. I'm putting the top down, dang it. And it was a glorious experience.
Nice.
So open air driving of some sort is
Right.
in my next vehicle, and a truck is kind of where Holly and I are leading for the next daily from me in
Right.
the future. So, yeah, you don't get that in the midsize segment.
I will tell you, I was dead set on a Trimmer Ranger.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like,
I know you were.
and
You were.
the B&P is not even available yet, and I have built one a dozen different ways on Ford's website, trying to get close to what it's going to cost me, so I can begin to dial in what the numbers are going to be and what I'm going to need to set aside and all those things. I was dead set on it. And then the F-150 trimmer
Yes.
came out.
And it's so much
It's
so much nicer because, again, you
it's a
mentioned
full-size truck. I mean,
you mentioned the bubbliness. There's no
Yeah.
better way. Yes, the mid-size segment, the design is they're
except for the
bubbled.
Gladiator,
They're, yeah, well, yes.
because that's a big block.
Yeah. And, hence why we love it.
Oh, yeah.
But yes, the Ranger, I just never got behind. Brand biases aside,
Right.
I never got behind the styling of the Ranger, and I even, to the same extent, have an issue with the GMC and Chevy twins in the bed height to
Yes.
ratio. It's weird.
Yeah.
They're so tall. And that's one thing that the Gladiator has for it and against it, because it's got fairly shallow bed sides,
Right.
which proportionally, as far as that goes, it looks right. But where like people like my wife fall off is the length of it in relation to the cab
Yeah.
and the rear overhangs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You gotta jack them up a few inches to make it proportionately look right.
Right. Well,
in
and
my
we
book.
discussed that at length with John and Dad on the Thanksgiving
Right.
special
Right.
too. Yeah, the proportions are off ish when it
Ish.
comes to that rig.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a Wrangler with a pickup bed, so the design options are minimal. I mean, you
Mhm.
want it to look like a Wrangler, you want it to act like a Wrangler, but you also want it to have the pickup capability. So
Which it does.
yeah, it does. So the F-150 trimmer, Ford just released, I believe it was this week.
Yep.
That the F-150 trimmer is coming out.
This week as of this recording.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Because this episode, this is just in addition to episode because we're just ad libbing at this point. But that one, if the price for the packaging is anywhere comparable to the Ranger, I'm sold. Except,
Okay.
and there's a big but. If I buy a full size truck, it will be a full 4-door crew
Mhm,
cab
mhm,
truck.
mhm.
For Ford, it's called a Super Crew.
Mm-hmm.
If I buy a Super Crew F-150, I want a 6.5 foot bed.
Mm-hmm.
You know what you can't get in the trimmer package as of right now?
6.5 foot bed.
You cannot get a 6.5 foot bed. It comes in Super Crew 5.5 foot bed only.
Yeah.
It also only comes with the 3.5 EcoBoost. You cannot get the 5 liter. You cannot get the 2.7. Now, it is a hopped up version of the 3.5.
Right.
Understandably so. It's over 400 horsepower and probably close or over 500 foot-pounds of torque,
Yes.
which is phenomenal,
Yeah.
especially for a truck that is set up to tow 11,000 plus pounds.
Right.
I mean, it will do its job incredibly well. But I want it my way.
Right. So as far as price goes, the relationship between Ford and General Motors is Ford's cheaper, which is one of the big reasons why they are the sales
And
leader.
they're better, so it's a win-win.
Yeah, it's subjective. So that is one reason. It's not the only reason. I'll give them that. It is one reason they outsell General Motors. But I would say, because Ford has not announced the price, you can go build yourself a Ram 1500 Rebel,
Right.
or I would say the Chevy Trail Boss,
Yeah.
and spec it how you want it, and that's about what a trimmer's going to cost you, because
Probably.
that's what it was designed to compete with.
Yes.
Because everybody, when the Trail Boss Silverado came out, they're like, well, how does it compare to the Raptor? How does it compare to the Raptor? It was never meant to go up against the Raptor. It pales in comparison to what the Raptor can do.
Right.
Basically, it's better marketing behind a Z71 package. Like, there's not that much to it. There's a lift, yes. There's better off-road tires, yes. But it's essentially a glorified Z71 package.
Yeah.
Which is essentially, the trimmer is a glorified FX4 package.
Well, if they follow suit with the Ranger, it will have improved shocks. It'll have improved ground clearance. It'll have better wheels and tires.
It does.
It'll have the skid plates and things like that. So
check.
To go
you can read more on GTGarageTalk.com.
That's right. To go from an FX4 to a trimmer is quite a bit of optioned up.
Right.
The engine package will be a big thing.
And it's like going from a LT Z71 equipped Silverado to a Trail Boss.
Oh, no, it's far better than that.
No. Agree to disagree, my friend.
Yeah. No, I will agree with you that yeah, it was the Trail Boss and the Rebel both, although I do believe the Rebel was half slated to compete with
more so than the Trail Boss.
Like it was one of those, nobody actually said it, but the feeling that you got from FCA was that they were trying to compete with the Raptor, and until you build a purpose-built off-road truck, it's just not going to happen. You can put as many shocks and wheels and tires on a truck as you want until you take the time to stretch the suspension, to build in all those safeguards and the frame stiffening and all those things. It just doesn't compete. So,
which they have now done, and done.
Yes, they have.
Well,
yes, they have. Hellcat, all the things.
Hellcat, all the things.
Hashtag bored.
Not if you're behind the wheel.
Well,
you would not be bored behind the wheel.
I am realizing that I have yet to be behind the wheel of anything Hellcat powered. So my bored status is simply because they're using that engine in everything. Right.
From a story perspective, you are bored.
Yes. Yeah.
From a consumer perspective,
oh my
yet
goodness.
to be seen.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I am a little offended, and it's probably just my FOMOCO bias, but I am a little offended that the general media consensus is that the trimmer is considered the Raptor Lite. And it makes it feel as if it is less than, which, no, it is not a Raptor, but I guarantee you it will be as capable, if not more capable, than the other two trucks in the segment. Because, again, it's probably a wording thing. It's probably my bias.
Oh, it's definitely your bias.
But I don't like that phrasing because the Rebel was never built that way. The Trail Boss was never built that way or called that way, mostly because up until recently, FCA wouldn't step up and make a Raptor killer. And we're still waiting, GM.
Yes. We are all still waiting, General Motors. What are you doing for crying out loud?
You guys have copped out on the Blazer. You've copped out on the Raptor killer opportunity. You've copped out. Even the ZR2, I would argue that the ZR2 is more capable than the Trail Boss.
Yes. I agree.
Okay.
And is proof that they have the knowledge, they have the people in-house with the drive and the desire.
Yeah.
They just haven't gotten the proper signatures. They have not appeased the right powers that be. And it's a shame that what feels like, at least on this side of the aisle, that corporate bureaucracy is robbing us of something great. Sorry, I feel very strongly on the matter.
Yeah. Well, to kind of redirect us back to the intent of this episode, you mentioned the luxury definition, the luxury. What is luxury when it comes to automotive? Or
I say that could be a separate episode. This could be its own thing.
So this is its own thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
well, do you want me to go off on the rant,
for
or
luxury?
save that for
save that for later.
Save that one for later. Okay.
Yeah. All I would say is cut out the part about you calling this a filler episode.
I realized that as I was saying it.
So,
yeah.
But we can kind of make this
I mean, it's 30 minutes at this point.
Yeah.
Basically.
How much of that is like actual usable content, though?
Probably a solid 20 minutes, maybe close to 25.
Yeah.
So our truck rant.
Yeah.
This is kind of our truck rant episode.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
All right. So Corey, if you were to money not an option.
No, I get the question.
Yeah. Money not an option. If you were to go out and buy a truck.
Thank you for rephrasing it with your dad's wording.
Right. Yeah.
knowledge.
I'll take the caveat of midsize off of it, and I'll just say truck. And I want to talk more about the heavy duty segment here in a minute. But just money not an issue, not an option. You were to go out and buy a truck today, right now, so you can't buy the TRX. If you were to go buy one right now, what would it be?
That is a very, very heavy question, my friend.
I agree.
Because there are so many things I want to do. The past couple of weeks, I've been specking out 3500s
Okay.
of a couple different brands.
Single wheel or dually?
Single wheel.
Okay.
I want to pull a camper,
Right.
and I'm looking fifth wheel. So
Right,
you know,
right.
There's that. Follow many channels that just have me wanting.
Mhm.
And then I listened to a podcast this past week of someone who bought one and almost instant regret because it sits in his driveway and it's huge.
Oh, no.
So I don't want to be that guy.
Right.
But I also know where I am. And I had a work colleague years ago that left a corporate office job, and I'm Facebook friends with him. And I saw that he and his wife picked up, they had a Ford F-150 and a bumper pull trailer and traveled the world.
Yep.
He had a job, traveled North America.
Well,
He had a job where he could work remotely.
Right.
And so they were always in a different place and posting awesome pictures. And so that lifestyle is really appealing to me. And
Oh, yeah.
Holly as well. And we keep joking anytime we see a really cool travel trailer, that could be us. That could be us.
Oh, yeah.
So, like I said, it's a really loaded, heavy question because current life situation,
Uh-huh.
sans life traveling adventures with a rig of that magnitude, I'm in the 1500 realm,
Okay.
and I gotta say, GMC AT4 with
Okay.
the Duramax
Okay.
inline six is really tempting because, as I mentioned earlier, I've only heard good things about that engine.
Yep.
But I also want the 6.2, so I'm torn because big V8 and the V8 sound and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I would say again, you said money is no option. I would lean GMC before Chevy in this scenario, but if I'm spending my hard-earned money, it's the other way around because the Chevy's obviously cheaper.
Fair enough.
Having quote-unquote lived with a Ram 1500 through my father-in-law and his Laramie 1500,
mhm.
and he's got the big 12-inch screen inside and all that. The interiors, golly, GMC needs to bring the Yukon, Tahoe, Suburban interiors to the trucks, but not the push-button
Oh, yeah.
shifters. Please leave the column-mounted shifters for the love of all that is pure
Yes.
and holy. Leave the column-mounted shifter, please.
Here, here.
But interior, I'm leaning Ram Rebel, something
Okay.
fun, exciting. My GM bias has me going AT4.
You are literally all over the place.
Yeah, because I really am. Because the heavy duties that we're specking out, oddly enough, it wasn't a Denali or anything like that. I was looking at the AT4 versus the High Country, which is Chevy's Denali-esque. So interesting that I went kind of split there, that
Yeah.
I didn't go full luxury with the professional grade luxury of the Denali.
Right.
I just really like the look of the AT4.
Yeah.
I didn't want the wall of chrome that comes with the Denali.
Fair enough.
I'll put it that way.
Fair enough.
So what would you pick?
What would I pick? Well,
Because you want the trimmer, but you don't know, and based on your own rules, you can't go out and buy it right now.
Right.
only starting to see the 2021 F-150 at all trickle out into the market.
Yeah,
so
and to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of the styling this year.
they didn't change anything.
Oh, they changed it drastically. What are you talking about? The whole front fascia is different.
You
the
ask
headlights
anyone
are different.
who
The
is
fenders
not
are
us.
different.
I agree. And
They're-
I can spot every single difference
Uh-huh.
as a gearhead that lives and breathes it.
Uh-huh.
I agree. But you pull anybody off the street who doesn't care, they're not going to know the difference.
Anybody who doesn't care.
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
Just an average consumer, they're not going to know.
right.
They're not going to be able to.
I mean,
oh yeah, that's the new 2021. No.
yeah.
So
Probably.
anyway,
Well, okay.
question posed to you.
Yeah.
Money no object.
Money,
Had
no
to buy
object.
one today. Well, tomorrow because I don't believe any dealerships are open right now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Probably not. This is where I have quite the conundrum because as we mentioned before, the half-ton segment versus the mid-size segment, I mean, for the money, it's really silly to go with anything other than a half-ton, in my opinion.
Right, because again, sorry not to steal your thunder.
No, you're
But
good.
when I spec'd out the Gladiator I wanted,
Uh-huh.
I could buy a Ram Rebel
Uh-huh.
and I could have the huge panoramic sunroof.
Right.
So I still get open air-ish,
Mm-hmm.
not quite the same. More towing, more payload, more comfort and convenience.
Right.
More.
Lots more.
And arguably better looking. And why wouldn't I?
Sure.
Like it's so yeah, the mid-size segment has got a price issue
Yes.
wholeheartedly.
All right. So just for the sake of the argument, I'm going in, and this is not quite built out exactly the way I would have it.
I see you busy at work over there clicking.
Yeah. For one thing, the trimmer package on the 3/4 and 1 ton, which I don't know if they're actually doing it on the 1 ton, so it may just be a 3/4
Right.
only thing. For Ford is not showing up in the B&P, but just quickly going through and building out myself an F-150 and a F-350, because if you're going to go 3/4, why not go 1 ton?
Right. Fuel economy.
The F-150, it's an XLT, it's 4-wheel drive, FX4 package. Again, the trimmer's not available yet. Gray colored, decent wheels, 3.5 EcoBoost, nothing crazy, just a nice,
Right.
straightforward, working man kind of truck
Right.
with a few amenities.
Right.
$53,260. Okay? All right?
Yeah.
4-wheel drive, all that good stuff. I click over here to the other page, and I have an F-350 single-wheel crew cab, 8-foot bed, 4-wheel drive, FX4 package, 7.3-liter gasoline Godzilla under the hood.
Mm-hmm.
A few
You
other
lost me at 8-foot bed, but continue.
a few other amenities, options type thing. Less than $2,000 more
Yeah.
for a truck. I mean, what are you really sacrificing going from a half-ton to a 1-ton truck? You're sacrificing a little bit of ride quality.
Yeah.
It's the same cab. It's the same spacing on the inside. You're sitting in the same kind of seats.
Right.
I mean, everything about the comfort on the inside of the truck is going to be close to identical.
Right.
A few more textile feelers on the F-150s because they're a little more luxury and comfort-minded. But outside of having a solid axle up front and 1-ton springs out back, the ride quality is not going to be that big of a difference. And now you have a 7.3-liter, 445 cubic inch, big block, pushrod motor,
Right.
vintage stuff,
Yes.
right? Under the
the good
hood.
stuff.
And the power numbers on it are astronomical. Unfortunately, I can't remember any of them at the moment, but but for me, and I don't need a 1-ton.
Right.
But if I'm going to spend $53,000 on a half ton,
Right.
you better believe I'm spending $55,000 on a 1 ton.
Yeah. So you bring up an interesting point comparing the price of full-size trucks, because when I bought my '07 Silverado, it was the first year of a new generation,
Right.
a lot going on, and as I was speccing it out and pricing and shopping, my dad asked, "Well, are you going to get the diesel?" Which I was looking at 1500s, and back in '07 there were no diesel options for the 1500.
Right.
And I said, "No, Dad, I'm not." And I would love to, because yes, we do live in Texas.
Right.
Was it rolling coal?
Oh,
but, that just, I did spec out a 2500 at the time, and the diesel option, because if I'm going heavy duty,
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting a diesel. I
Oh,
know
yeah.
you wanted the Godzilla engine, which is
Right.
gas, but if I'm going heavy duty, I want the diesel, and that was an $8,000 option, and I had
And that was in 2007.
right, and it's so long ago I can't remember all the sacrifices I had to make, but I was just like, "No, Dad, I'm not making those sacrifices for." I was using the pool, the truck at the time for swimming pool service and work, so I was using it as a truck,
As a truck, yeah.
as it should be, and I was traveling all over East Texas cleaning pools and repairing pools and this, that, and the other.
Right.
Yes, I was a pool boy. Yeah, well, have fun with that in the comments. But I couldn't justify the $8,000
Sure.
premium
Right.
for that diesel engine.
So, with my background in the automotive industry, and in particular the past 3 years as a fleet technician for a school district, one of the things that I have come to know, and our entire fleet is gas. Or, I'm sorry, our entire fleet is diesel, excuse me. And everything from the old 444 cubic inch 7.3 diesel that everybody loves from International
Right.
and Ford. Yeah, it was in a lot of Ford trucks, but it was an International engine. It's the same blue color as what's under the hood in the Ford trucks. So that, and it's a monster, and it does great. Our older buses, but we're at the point now with the buses that we have, and we're blessed as a district to be able to do this. We're looking at getting rid of newer buses with comparable mileage because they have the 6-liter engine in them, the 365, over getting rid of the older buses with comparable miles, because that old 7.3 is so much better than the new 6-liter. I say all that to say, to get back to the diesel versus gas portion of it, we're looking at buying a couple of gasoline buses in the upcoming year. They're big blocks. They're 7+ liters. Some of them are like 9 liters. They're monsters.
Nice.
But for our in-town routes, they make so much more sense
Right.
because it is all stop and go.
Right.
And the worst thing you can do for a diesel engine is fire it up, drive it 2 miles, and shut it off. Like,
Yep.
it's the worst thing for them, especially with the emissions garbage that are choking these things down these days. So while, and it wouldn't have been so much an issue with you because you're driving to Rusk, you're driving to, work all over the place with,
Quitman,
all over the place. So for you, getting up on the highway would have been fairly regular, and putting the miles on it, things like that would have been fine. But for us, for these in-town routes, the gas makes much more sense. The horsepower numbers are comparable.
Right. It's the torque.
And sometimes even better.
Right.
You can get 400 horsepower out of a gasoline engine where you're only getting 300, maybe 325 out of the diesel. But the torque is where it makes the big difference. And you go from, a 400 horsepower gasoline engine with 450 foot-pounds of torque to a 350 horsepower diesel engine with 800 foot-pounds of torque. So the numbers, as far as the torque is concerned, are drastically different. Where you see that, because of the way they gear the school buses specifically, where you see that is on the highway, right? The gasoline bus and the diesel bus are going to jump and run pretty daggum close.
Yeah.
I've been around enough of the gasoline buses with the testing that I do that as 0 to 35, they're probably dead even.
Yeah.
But from 35 to 65, that diesel is going to run right up past it and walk away from it on every hill that you come to, because it doesn't have the oomph on the backside to maintain the speed and with the weight. So that's the biggest difference between the two. For me, I'm taking a long way around to say this.
All you ever needed to know about gas versus diesel in a school bus.
In a school bus. For me, looking at the numbers here, and I've got it pulled up, you mentioned the dollar amount difference.
Right.
The 1 tons and the 3/4 tons come factory with the base option is the 6.2 2-valve single overhead cam V8, putting out about 385 horsepower and about 420 foot-pounds of torque. Not a slouch.
No.
It's a solid engine. It's the one they put in the Raptor to start with, tuned a little different. The 7.3, if I can, oh, crud, I hit the wrong button. There it is. The 7.3 powertrain, get back over here to the right button, sorry. 430 horsepower, 475 foot-pounds of torque. So it's a definite step up from the 6.2 small block. And it is a big block versus small block thing. That option is $1,705. Not bad.
No.
For what you're getting for an engine that's going to run much more efficient overall, not necessarily fuel-wise, but it's having to work less hard to do the same job, which makes it more efficient.
Right.
Yeah. For the money, that's totally worth it. If I buy a 3/4 1-ton Ford, it will have the 7.3 in it. And then you go to the $10,495 option of the 6.7 Power Stroke.
Yikes.
Right. Mm-hmm. It jumps you up 45 horsepower. Okay. And 600 foot-pounds of torque.
Yeah. You're paying for the torque, and you're paying for that max payload towing number.
Yes.
Which you only get in weirdly optioned rigs that nobody is actually going to.
It's got to be a 1-ton. It's got to have 373 gears. It's got to have.
Single cab, probably. Long
single
bed.
Cab, long bed. This transmission and, no locking differential.
Right. A vehicle that no
certain
one
tire size. I mean, is
truly going to want.
Right.
Outside of the workforce.
Right. But you're talking about less than a 10% difference between it and one that is probably going to run across, the XLT 4-wheel drive, all the 3/4 tons you see running around all the time anyway, that's going to have the diesel in it. They're going to be close to those top numbers anyway. So, yeah. So your $8,000 option to upgrade from a half-ton to a 3/4 ton now is $10,500 in a Ford. So it's nuts. But, again, 475 horsepower, 45 more horsepower, and 1,050 foot-pounds of torque. Over 1,000 foot-pounds of torque in that thing. It's just astronomical.
Oh.
That's right.
That's not trademarked, is it?
It might be.
I'm showing my age. Love that show. Well, I believe we have shared everything that we need to share about our rants on trucks.
On pickups, yep.
And some we didn't need to share on school buses.
Probably not.
But it was a fun episode and a great way to start a new year. So just, again, Happy New Year to each and every one of you. Thank you for all the help and support through 2020. It's been a year. Hello, 2021. Great things in store. We're very excited about the future of Garage Talk.
We're coming up on our 1-year anniversary, too.
Yeah. February, I believe, was our first episode. So we're very excited about it. A little bit of bonus content coming from us, if you want to head on over to patreon.com/GT Garage Talk and sign up at the $5 tier, and you will get bonus content each week and just help support us as we grow and start to do more things.
So we can talk about gas-powered buses.
Yes, yes. We have big plans for 2021, and no, they aren't all gas-powered buses.
Oh,
but
okay.
We're very excited about that. If you want to know more about us, what we're doing, what we're into, and the latest car news that we find interesting ourselves, head on over to gtgaragetalk.com, and you'll find links to everything that we're into and doing that way.
Not all that we're into has to do with school buses either.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, we are into a wide variety of, like we said, a discussion about all things automotive. So
Every bit
school
of it.
buses fall into that. But until next time, have a happy new year and bye.